Hello guys, so we are now in Barcelona at Celo Connect conference, and here we are with the co-founder Rene Reinsberg, and Celo is EVM compatible layer 1 blockchain, and it's quite focused on mobile payments. So glad to see you here, Rene.
Yeah, it's great to see you again, yeah.
So can you tell us about your background and how did you get involved into crypto and blockchain industry?
Absolutely. So my background, I grew up in East Germany and tried all of the jobs that I thought would be interesting. So I worked in finance, I started a company, and somehow made my way into startups and moved to Silicon Valley and really discovered that building products that can help people is the thing that gives me the most passion. And so after Merrick and I sold our previous company, we teamed up with Seb, who had been on our board and had become a friend over the years. And we were brainstorming what should we do next. And at the time, Bitcoin obviously was out there, Ethereum had launched, and we're like, oh, this technology is really interesting, could actually really have an impact to bring more access to economic opportunity to people. And it could be used as like a global payments rail. And the first thing we did is we built an Ethereum wallet and took it into the wild to show it to real people. And like, yeah, this is way complicated. Like, I want to send a stable coin, but I need this other thing, ETH, to pay for it. Like, why? And people were really struggling. And so we realized, okay, first we need stable coins that can also be used as gas currency. And that was one of the early Celo innovations. But then we also realized that people on their mobile phone, and there was no one in the blockchain space focused on mobile. And so we started developing technology that basically takes Ethereum's light client and makes it, as of yesterday, 1 million times lighter. And so this really means that you can, from a mobile phone, sync with the chain trustlessly. That's really powerful. So for anyone interested in that, check out Plumo, which is the technology behind that, based on zero-knowledge proofs. Now, one of the motivators, and this is something that at this conference really, it's been so amazing to see how many projects are focusing on climate action. We've been big believers in a financial system needs to be regenerative. We were actually inspired to start Celo after reading a book by Charles Eisenstein called Sacred Economics, in which he talks about the concept of natural capital-backed currencies. And this was before Bitcoin, so it was actually kind of wild that he came up with that. And the idea is that whenever money was backed by things like gold, people would go out and try to get more gold. And so his insight was, hey, if that's what people do, then why don't we back money with things that we actually want to see more of in the world, like pristine forests, clean water. And so that really, when we read this, we're like, wow, this is like really cool, and crypto can maybe solve that. But 5 years ago, no one was really tokenizing forest or bringing carbon credits on chain. But now that's happening, and we have in this ecosystem, many companies that are working on this all over the world. And so this vision, this future of actually having currencies that are backed by natural assets, it's happening. And so, to me, that's been one of the most exciting things to see at this conference.
And is Celo your first crypto startup, or did you run any other crypto companies before, or did you run any sustainability startup?
Yeah, no, look, this is our first. Our last company was focused on helping small businesses manage their data online. So I feel like we've been fighting for the small guy for a long time. But yeah, it's been fascinating because a lot of our friends or founders we had known from before are all coming into the space now. Really, I think Web3 is becoming really an engine, or people using token economics to solve some of the world's hardest problems. And I think, to me, that's one of the most exciting things to see.
Yeah, we need some more real use cases and blockchain for the good.
That's
and
right.
You are quite focused on emerging markets, so is it challenging?
I think that's where the opportunity is highest right now. I mean, if you look at what the internet has done with information, right? I mean, almost everyone in the world now has access, can read any newspaper, right? Can get information if they have an internet connection. However, that has not really happened for value, right? If you maybe you have a phone internet connection, but it's not easy to actually, for example, do work and get paid in something that you can then use in your local community. And so for us, we see the biggest potential, or we saw the biggest potential when starting this in markets where the financial infrastructure was less developed. However, now it's people using this in the United States, in Europe, so it's really become global, but I still think that if you look at just kind of even population growth and where some of the biggest problems that mankind has created are being faced, it's in frontier markets, it's in the global south. So I think for us, I think it's still where we see the biggest impact for this technology.
And what are the use cases you are focused on? You mentioned climate action. What other areas?
Yeah, so I think payments is still a very big use case. So the Celo Real launched earlier this year, and and that's been just growing very rapidly. So in Brazil now you can pay at, I think, half of the small businesses, you can go with your Celo wallet and make a payment, which is really cool. People that have wallets can also build wealth, right? They can store money, they can invest in other assets, and that's something that hasn't really been possible for many people before. I think beyond that, we're seeing a lot of interesting kind of new innovation happening around using token economics to, for example, bootstrap two-sided marketplaces, right? Bringing sort of supply and demand together, and I think that's, there's many examples. Kickstarter's decided to decentralize, and they're doing that on Celo. So I think that we'll see another wave of marketplaces that are coming through that. But to me, I think it's like, I think less about, I think if it solves a real world problem, and it's something that can leverage, I think some of our advantages, then I think it's helping advance the space. So even a lot of, I'm personally not someone who plays a lot of games, for example, but I see people building games on Celo that actually bring new people into the space, and now they learn about wallets, how to use crypto. So I think that's actually a fantastic way to onboard people into the space. So yeah, I think the power of an open platform is, you like, people can build anything. And so for us, my role at the Celo Foundation is really just to try to support people as best as possible, give them the tools, make sure that if there are key building blocks missing, we can accelerate providing those. Yeah.
And you mentioned that you have your own Brazilian stablecoin, Real. Can you tell more about your expansion in Brazil and whether you plan to launch more stablecoins in other Latin American countries?
Yeah, Brazil was very interesting. So the Celo dollar was the first stablecoin to launch on the Celo infrastructure. The second one was the Celo euro, and all of the stablecoins are driven by on-chain governance. So someone will put forward a proposal and say, hey, I want to see the Celo euro launch, and then the community votes on that. And usually there's a forum discussion and people are weighing in, and the community tries to get a sense, is there real interest in the community? And for Brazil it was very special because within sort of weeks of sort of the first time that proposal surfacing on the forum, there was like very active chatter, and there was lots of projects from like big to small who were like, yeah, this would be phenomenal to have this. It would unlock new usage, new use cases. And so we knew that with the launch of the Cereal, there would immediately be a lot of interest and adoption and people integrating. And I think that's maybe some of the excitement also at E3 that transpired. I think for future stablecoins, it's the same process. So I think we are looking for communities to come forward and make a proposal of why they think that a certain or like a new stablecoin would be beneficial. And ideally, there is kind of already a small group of organizations in the market that will adopt it right away to kind of create critical mass to bootstrap an ecosystem. So that's what we're always hoping for, but we're also, I think, happy to support, as people are thinking about this. And so, yeah, I think rather than us saying, hey, here's the next 10 countries, we really want it to be community driven, and ultimately it has to go through on-chain governance anyways. So it's nice when this happens proactively.
And you have as well CUSD, CEuro. So how are your stablecoins different from the competitors, and how do you guarantee the back? How do you hold the back?
Yeah, so All these stablecoins share the same reserve, and the reserve is over collateralized. 1 second, I'm just gonna. It's not just over collateralized with one asset, like for example in some of the other senior share-based models, but it's actually backed by a diversified basket of assets. And those assets include some of those natural assets that I mentioned earlier, but also Bitcoin, ETH, other stable coins. And so it's really nice because it actually creates much more protection, much more stability, even when there are big volatile swings in the underlying assets. And so and the reason for that was just we want real world adoption, real world usage. So stability is sort of the number one priority. This thing has to be stable. And I think and over the years we've seen many different experiments with stable coins, and I think all of those are great because they all teach us what are the best designs, how can designs be improved, but ultimately for us that was never really a choice. We wanted from the outset to make sure that our stable coins are always stable, and so we picked a design that is over collateralized, has some other protections as well that can kick in to make sure that someone who's actually using this in a place like Brazil can rely on its stability.
And we see now as well countries researching central bank digital currencies. Some countries have already launched, like we see big success of digital yuan. So how do you see the existence of CBDCs and stable coins?
Yeah, so we have a team at C Labs, one of the companies in the ecosystem that is actually has been working on that, even creating a sandbox. And so we're very active in engaging central banks. I would say our focus has been more on helping to educate central banks. I think ultimately the technology is still relatively new, and so for especially a bigger country to go full all in on a retail CBDC, I think that has to be done responsibly, and I think we're probably going to start seeing that over the coming years. But I would say it's also especially with the lack of like what we launched just now, the ultralight client, it's hard to imagine central bank digital currencies for retail really take off before some of those primitives are more well established. Now, I think community currencies or even some of the stable coins we've seen in their adoption gives really good insights and data to central banks as they learn about what digital assets, what digital currencies can do to improve financial inclusion or help, for example, with monetary policy. So I'm generally optimistic that CBDCs can coexist with the digital assets, the rich digital asset ecosystem that's been forming, and we want to play a role there. But I think we're very open to, or we're recognizing that there's a wide spectrum of possible implementations.
And let's talk about some of your announcements you made yesterday. You announced a grant program of $20 million. Can you tell more about it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. One thing that we've seen ever since the platform launched is that while on-chain transactions are fast, it's 5-second block times, it's less than a cent in fees. So if you're truly just transacting on-chain, this is an amazing payments network. It's global, right? I can send money to someone at the other end of the world. But every so often, right, you do need to cash out, right, to actually pay someone who's not yet accepting crypto, or you need to cash in because you want to be part of this digital economy. And while we've focused on working with a lot of companies in our ecosystem to create more on and off ramps, progress has been slow and it's complicated, especially for wallets that want to have a global audience. They have to integrate with all these different local providers to be able to support mobile money in Kenya, say, or like the banking system in Germany, right, to allow people to send money from Germany to Kenya more seamlessly. And so that's how last year the idea for Fiat Connect was born, which is a new open standard that both wallets and cash in, cash out providers can use to just basically have one API that connects both sides, which is really powerful. It's an open standard, anyone can use it. And then we have a program at the Celo Foundation, Connect the World, which is the $20 million program to actually accelerate companies around the world, or even encourage people to start on and off ramps to make this truly a global seamless experience. So to go from today, I think it's 23 countries where you can already seamlessly cash in, cash out, to over 100 countries within this year.
That's great. And
Yeah.
you mentioned as well the setting up of Zikasync, Plumo. Can you explain what it is?
Yeah, so Plumo is using zero-knowledge proofs to actually allow you from your light client on the phone to sync with the chain. And so it's basically, rather than like, to get the state from the chain, having to download a lot of chain data to kind of make that kind of decision, it's using zero-knowledge proofs to kind of infer whether this is the right state. And so this is really powerful because it allows you in a trustless fashion to sync with the chain super quickly, and even Merrick demoed this yesterday on stage, basically get the correct state in any application without having to rely on a centralized node. And I think from a decentralization perspective, which I think many in the space are rightly so feel very strongly about, right? This is a big enabler, and I think will, just also unleash a whole set of new innovations now that that's possible.
Yeah, the fast transactions and secure transactions are quite important now.
Yeah.
And as well, you have big partnerships, like for example, with Deutsche Telekom, the largest telecommunications company in Europe. And so they invested into you, and as well, your validator. So can you tell about your cooperation?
Yeah, so Deutsche Telekom bought Celo, and then has been running validators in the network. And they're also, as a telco, I think there's a really great opportunity because Celo has this lightweight protocol which maps phone numbers to wallets in a trustless, decentralized way. And that's really powerful because if I, for example, say I have your phone number and I want to send you money for a coffee, now I don't have to know your public key or some other ENS name, but I can simply send funds to your phone number. And even if you don't have a Celo wallet yet, the money is held in an escrow account, and then once you verify your phone number and associate it with your then wallet, the money goes to your wallet. And so that's a really powerful mechanism for making peer-to-peer payments even more seamless. And for mobile carriers, which basically control that phone book, right? That is a really great opportunity to enable payments not just among their customers, but to everyone in the world, and create a really seamless payment experience. And so we're excited about that use case. But Deutsche Telekom also has been in the space for a long time, not just running validators, but really being an active participant. And so, yeah, I'm excited. I'm actually here at the conference as well, presenting, I think today, I don't know if I can say what it is yet because I don't think they have announced, but they're making an announcement about a product they're launching. So there's, it's been really exciting to work with them because, usually people say, oh, big companies, they move slow or they don't want to innovate, but it's been exciting to see how much they understand Web3 and how much they're also thinking about it, how it can solve their customers' problems.
Yeah, it's quite easy for the average users just to send money to the mobile phone rather than to understand all these wallets and maybe send money to their own address, etc.
Yeah.
And another emerging market is Africa. Do you have any business there, any partnerships there?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at around the conference, there's so many founders, so many projects here from Africa. We were actually saying maybe the next Celo Connect we should do in Kampala, Nairobi, Accra. It'd be really fantastic. I've been really impressed too because I think we often, in blockchain we talk about the opportunity of this technology, right? That this can have, especially on the African continent, but what I'm excited about is seeing actually entrepreneurs that live on the continent building these businesses there and not just importing a technology, right? And so we have been, as Celo Foundation, we've actually backed funds that are on the ground in Africa to invest in entrepreneurs that are building locally for their local communities. And to me, that's one of the most amazing things to see how a lot of these projects have been just growing at like crazy rates because really this technology brings so much value to communities in markets that have been traditionally left out or cut off from the traditional financial system and the global economy.
And why did you select this time Barcelona as your city for the conference?
So the joke is that Barcelona has Celo in the name, and so we had to do it here. But it's also, yeah, it is a really central location, and our ecosystem is truly global, and I think making it easy for people to come here from all over the world, this was I think a great choice. People have a good time. The weather is nice, so yeah, we have a beautiful venue. So it's been really great.
Yeah, I actually haven't really noticed that in Barcelona names there is Celo inside. That's quite funny.
Yeah.
And can you share with us some future plans for the development of Celo?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the benefit, I think, actually being here all in person is to have conversations about what is the technical roadmap for Celo. And so I know the team at C Labs, which has a lot of the core developers, but also Miston Labs, which presented yesterday, which is implementing Narwhal and Move to bring the transaction throughput to 140,000 transactions per second. The nice thing about being here in person is to also have more of these conversations around the roadmap and what else is needed, what will unblock people from building even better applications. So yeah, you'll probably see a bunch of activity on the forum in the coming weeks to digest all that and put it out, to the community for discussion.
Yeah, hope to see Celo growing more and more.
Thank you. Yeah.
Great talking with you.
Great talking to you. Thank you.